Hello all, it's week 7, our last week of class. What I hope this class has demonstrated for you is that first, social entrepreneurship is an emergent concept. By that I mean there's many different definitions and approaches to it, and it's evolving rapidly in light of our economic and cultural and political climate. I think this complexity is a strength, but I also think it's important that entrepreneurial thinking and approaches are at the center of social entrepreneurship. What I hope this class has also demonstrated is that there's a lot of good happening in the world right now, undertaken by a lot of different people. And there's room for each and every one of you to participate in this massive social, cultural, and entrepreneurial change, either by launching a social entrepreneurial venture or by supporting an existing or emergent social entrepreneurial venture, or by making change as an intrapreneur within a company or organization in which you work, oriented toward social change. So the focus of our last week of class is on the future of social entrepreneurship. Are we going to see these positive trends continue? Will social and cultural entrepreneurship be engaged by more and more individuals and organizations and companies and embraced by more governments? What tactics and approaches will help us make more positive change in the world in the coming years, especially as we work to address the wicked problems, the large-scale problems that no one discipline or business or government can solve on its own? In this video, I want to talk briefly about different approaches to and understandings of social entrepreneurship to kind of bring all the ideas and definitions we've been wrestling with for the past few weeks together, and with an eye toward the future of social entrepreneurship. I'm also going to talk about Project 4 and offer an example of a social entrepreneurial venture that I have an idea for. To sum up what we've been talking about and reading about and working with this semester, and to think about the future of social entrepreneurship, I want to talk a bit here about the edited collection called Social Entrepreneurship, which was authored by Joanna Mayer, Jeffrey Robinson, and Kai Hockerts. Last year, University of Michigan had Professor Jeffrey Robinson, one of the book's editors, on campus, and he hosted a symposium on Innovate Blue's Urban Entrepreneurship Initiative. This book, Social Entrepreneurship, is specifically about social entrepreneurship, and the editors and the authors don't even agree as to what it is. Again, though, I think this complexity is rich and appropriate, but it also means that we have to work toward forming an orientation toward social entrepreneurship that emphasizes social good and entrepreneurial thinking. The editors open the book by talking about aspects of social entrepreneurship, and they argue social entrepreneurship is undertaken by enterprising individuals devoted to making a difference. Social entrepreneurship happens in a range of ways, including when for-profit approaches are used to support the nonprofit sector for social purposes. Social entrepreneurship includes new types of philanthropists supporting venture capital-like investments, and it also includes nonprofit orgs reinventing themselves by drawing from business and enterprise concepts. And we've seen examples of all of this in the cases and the sparks and the readings for class. To draw from just 3 chapters in this book, Francesco Perrini, a professor of management and sustainability innovation at Bocconi University in Milan, Italy, and Claudia Vero, a student of business administration and management at that school, suggest that social entrepreneurs are change promoters, that they strive to exploit social innovation with an entrepreneurial mindset and a strong need for achievement in order to create new social value, both in the market and within communities. Jeffrey Robinson, again, one of the book's editors and a professor of management at NYU, suggests that social entrepreneurship is a process that includes identifying a specific social problem and a specific solution, and that's sort of the work you're going to do with your Project 4 essay. To address it, to evaluate its social impact, the business model and the sustainability of the venture, and the creation of a social mission-oriented entity that pursues the double or triple bottom line. And that triple bottom line is the conceptualization of making a social difference. Christian SEELOS with the Milik Management Center and lecturer in business strategy and social entrepreneurship at several European universities. And Kate Ganley, a research assistant at the IAH Business School in Barcelona, Spain, described the social entrepreneur as someone who identifies and applies practical solutions to social problems, innovates by finding a new product, a new service, a new approach, focuses on social value creation, resists being trapped by the constraints of ideology or discipline, is able to think in trans or cross-disciplinary ways, and has a vision and a roadmap for how to attain the goal of social good through enterprise and entrepreneurial thinking. So even though there isn't an agreed upon set definition here, we can see the trends that give shape to social entrepreneurship, trends we've been talking about all semester. Identifying and focusing on social need, drawing on best practices from business, engaging in creativity and innovation. If you're interested in reading more about social entrepreneurship as it continues to evolve and beyond this class, I hope you will, and this book would be a great place to start. Last week, I mentioned how graffiti art has transformed Rio Town in Lansing, and how there's a larger cultural entrepreneurial orientation happening in the neighborhood, in part sparked by the graffiti public art event. This week, I want to share with you one of my dream projects, and I do so because it's an example of what I'm asking you to do for Project 4, our final class project, where you'll identify a community, a need or issue in that community, and describe a social entrepreneurial approach to addressing that need or problem. I live about a mile south of Rio Town in Lansing, very close to the Grand River. I also grew up fishing, and I still fish a lot. River health is a significant environmental, and I would argue cultural issue. People still throw trash in and around the river and don't seem to recognize the impact on the larger watershed. And also, a lot of people who fish in the river don't know how to handle fish safely and respectfully. So I want to open a new business in Rio Town, and I already have the land parcel available for commercial development picked out right along the river. The business will be a takeout soup restaurant and tackle shop called Hook and Ladle. It sounds a bit weird, I know, but if you're on a boat or on the shore fishing all day, you need something to eat, and soup is healthy, nutritious, filling, and easy to carry. Hook and Ladle will offer a range of soup with a set price of $5 for up to 32 ounces, and you can bring in your own container, or we'll have biodegradable containers you can get soup in. Our signature soups will be a cherry chicken made with dried Michigan cherries and a tomato basil balm with Michigan tomatoes. We'll partner with local farms to source ingredients, and we'll also have a small bait shop on premises so you can get your meal for the day and your fishing gear in one place. That's the entrepreneurial aspect of Hook and Ladle. The social mission of the shop is that we'll host fishing clinics right behind the shop on the Grand River once a month, so people can learn about things like Grand River fish species, casting and catching techniques, how to safely catch and release, and learn generally about river sustainability. Once a year, we'll also harvest crawdads and host a Grand River lobster boil. We'll cook up the crawdads with Creole seasonings, potatoes, corn, and sausage from a local Lansing farm, and the proceeds of the boil and the party will go two places. First, we'll donate proceeds to river conservation efforts and organizations. Second, we'll also donate funds for kids in Lansing to get fishing equipment and licenses. The goal of Hook and Ladle is to sell really good soup. The mission of Hook and Ladle is to contribute to the fishing culture of the Lansing area and to protect and preserve the health of the Grand River and its fish inhabitants. So that's my idea. If I was going to write up this problem and this idea for Project 4, I'd take my idea and probably come up with an outline of what my essay would include. And it might look something like this. First, I'd want to introduce the problem. I'd probably do some research and find some statistics about the Grand River and the river health and about sport fishing and Michigan's economy and specifically Lansing's economy. I'd try to find some information about fish species and protecting the health of the river. Then I'd introduce my idea. I'd explain what hook and ladle would be, briefly, not with a ton of detail. I only have 2 or 3 pages, so I can't describe the menu or go into tons of detail. What I'd be sure to do in the body of my essay is talk about the mission of hook and ladle and be sure to explain how it's a social entrepreneurial venture. That's critical. Social good and entrepreneurial approaches. And I wouldn't just say it's an example of social entrepreneurship. I'd include descriptions and quotes from class readings and materials to support my ideas. And I'd conclude by offering some final points or ideas about the concept and what impact it might have as a social entrepreneurial venture. So that's my example of Project 4, our final class project, which is an individual project and one I consider to be a capstone project. There's no final exam for this class. Project 4 is our last assignment, and I want you to draw from across our readings, cases, sparks, approaches, tactics, and tools, and from the other projects, and thinking about and approaching Project 4. Again, for Project 4, you're going to identify a community, and it's up to you to define what you mean by community. Is it a city, a neighborhood, a street, a group of people? And then identify a need in that community. Your goal is to then pitch a social, entrepreneurial initiative or venture to help address that need. And the product is a 2 to 3 page essay, double spaced. Be sure to carefully review the Project 4 assignment on D2L, and note that after the assignment itself, I've included 2 example essays where I think the students did an excellent job of identifying community, identifying a need, and pitching an entrepreneurial initiative to address that need. Project 4 should allow you to both reflect, that is to look back and think across what we've done and explored in the past few weeks together, and it should also allow you to think forward to apply what we've been reading about and learning in the context of a particular issue. As for our Week 7 work, in our Week 1 overview video, I talked briefly about the status of entrepreneurship at MSU. So our first reading is a position statement that MSU Provost June Youat produced about entrepreneurship at MSU. The report's primary audience is funders and donors, people who are going to support MSU initiatives to foster entrepreneurial work and specifically undergraduate entrepreneurial education. The report provides a concise and exciting overview of what entrepreneurship might look like and does look like at MSU. Our second reading by Paul Light is called Reshaping Social Entrepreneurship, and he describes some moves we need to make for the future of social entrepreneurship. Our next 2 readings and our last 2 class readings are the conclusions of 2 important books about social entrepreneurship. We'll first read the conclusion of Beverly Schwartz's Rippling, How Social Entrepreneurs Spread Innovation Throughout the World. And in the conclusion, Schwartz summarizes this notion of rippling that she's built in the book and talks about how social entrepreneurship can continue to be cultivated in our world. Then we'll read the conclusion to Georgia Levinson Keohane's book, Social Entrepreneurship for the 21st Century. And in her conclusion, Keohane really hones in on the role that the government might play in the future of social entrepreneurship. Our case is another social entrepreneurial project by an MSU alum. You're going to read and learn about the York Project. And we have 2 sparks for this last week of class. Some of you might read Wired magazine. The back page of each issue of Wired is an object or artifact from the future. I've posted a collection of these on D2L for you to look at and to think about and consider these potential technologies and emergent ideas, and maybe how social entrepreneurship might have a role in some of these potential futures. Creativity, as I've argued in class, is a critical component of entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurial work. And creativity is something that has to be nurtured and fostered. So our second spark is a list of 29 ways to be creative and to stay creative. And you're going to see these 29 ways in a video, an infographic, and some designed images. We do have a reading response for this week, Week 7. It's less a reading response and more a prompt to get you reflecting across what you're taking from your experience in this class. Please post your response by midnight this Thursday, June 28th. This week, class officially ends on Friday, and your Project 4 essay is due by noon Eastern this Friday, June 29th. Happy creating, happy innovating, happy week 7.